Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Always warm, always sunny, sometimes Colorado. I get to be in the office tomorrow, but still in the home office because the air conditioning is almost fixed. Apparently, it takes days and days and days to resolve a simple problem with the condenser. Anyway, I wanted to make a quick video for you guys to discuss the thing that you've all wanted to know and see. So here's where we're at. We have all the stuff coming together for version 1.4 of the node. The wallet backend is just going through QA at the moment. We'll cut everything off on the 6th. GraphQL is looking pretty good. DB Sync is looking pretty good. And the Rosetta APIs are looking pretty good. So everything gets wrapped up today, and on Thursday, Friday. Then next week, we will begin bringing in lots of exchange partners outside of the original white set and go with light purple. And it's off for the horses. So it looks like everything's on schedule. Looks like everything's looking good. And we're going to do a mid-month update. And the mid-month update will announce the date of the HFC event. How that works is that based on the feedback that exchanges are giving and the other infrastructure people are giving, the foundation, Mergo, and other people, they come together for a consolidated opinion of what is the best date for delivery based on upgrade time. Software readiness is looking very good. Bugs are very light, a few dozen here and there. We've corrected those with the flying squad. There was a serialization issue and some issues with the CLI. We were able to go through that entire end-to-end, looking good. Feedback for Alonzo White is looking great, and we're very ready for light purple. So at the mid-month update, we're going to give a precise date, and we'll probably give 2 dates. One is the primary date, and then a abort fallback date. So as many of you know, when we do an HFC event, it has to be triggered 5 days before the actual day that the HFC occurs. So if it's August 31st, then that would be the 26th that it has to be triggered on. And I think there might be a little bit of a buffer. I think we have up to maybe 48 hours from the rollout of the epic to trigger the update. So it could be the 28th, but somewhere in that window. If we don't, for whatever reason, feel comfortable to trigger, then we have to do a rollback date. And that's usually the next epic. So 5 days afterwards. So at the moment, I think the window is going to be the end of August to the first week of September. But we're going to know that date definitively based upon the feedback we get from the exchanges, the foundation, Emergo, and the rest of the partners who have to integrate. And end-to-end, the software is all being pulled together right now. Node 1.4 is likely going to be the node I think we're going to launch the HFC event for. There's some QA stuff that has to be done. I believe they're going to hard fork the testnet the next week or so. And we're obviously going to get a lot of feedback from different people. But everything's looking good. And as soon as I know something, I try to let you guys know. We're pretty happy with DB Sync. We're pretty happy with Rosetta. We're pretty happy with GraphQL. Why do people care about that? Because that's how the exchanges talk to Cardano. If that doesn't work, you can't use Binance and Bittrex and Coinbase and so forth. So that kind of has to get done. The node has to completely stabilize for the wallet backend to integrate, for Daedalus to integrate. And we integrated against 1.2.8, 1.3, fixed a bunch of stuff, and there's some last-minute roll-up things that need to be done with 1.4. So look for the mid-month update. We'll give the precise date of the HFC event, and we're going to give you a primary and a fallback date. But it looks pretty good towards, based on the information we have, that it's going to be August, September, late August, early September, more likely than not, maybe the 31st to, I'd say, September 7th for the primary date. And then there'll be a board fallback date in the event that something is discovered past the cutoff date. So, for example, if we initiate on the, we're on the day of the 28th and some bug comes out, we don't feel comfortable with it, we have to then wait another 5 days for the next date for the epic turnover. That's just how that works. So anyway, that's basically where we're at. We're going to know a lot more at the end of the week. We're going to know a lot more at the end of next week. But so far, nothing has come up that is catastrophic. Nothing has come up that would indicate a substantial delay. There still could be moderate delays to minor delays, but there's nothing at the moment that looks problematic. We have smart contracts running on the node. A lot of infrastructure, and it has to be integrated in. For example, the Plutus application backend is still a huge work in progress, but that's irrelevant for on-chain smart contracts, for the actual running and execution of those contracts that are compiled to assembly. It's kind of the mental model to think about is something is like EVM, something is like Solidity plus Zeppelin and Web3 and all that other stuff. PAB lives in that world, and Plutus Core and what the node has lives in the EVM world, and as a kind of a mental analogy to think about. So you do the first one, which is get the infrastructure layer deployed, and then of course the development tooling, that's a running game. You keep adding to it, you keep building things, you keep integrating things in, you keep finding all kinds of different things. Also, you can compile multiple languages to run on Plutus Core. At the moment, it's Plutus, but it's conceivable that people could compile Scala or whatever else to run there if so desired. It's not currently in scope, but it is something that we've talked about in prior days. So that's the brief update. Figured I'd just make one real quick for you guys. Every day I get reports, I get my readout, and things are looking pretty good with the readout. And we keep looking at the bug logs. We keep looking at all the output of the flying squad and everybody else. Now, again, the official date will come at the mid-month update, and that's when we'll know with absolute certainty when we want to do it, because it's a consolidated opinion. There's an opinion with an IO, but then there's external people who have to have a say, or else what would happen is that if they're not prepared and ready, their infrastructure will go dark for some period of time, and that's bad for the ecosystem. So you kind of do the preponderance of all the things. The good news is going from Mary to Alonzo is significantly easier than going from Byron to Shelley, where there were completely new ways of doing things. And that was a very dramatic upgrade, which meant that everybody needed a long time to get ready and prepared for it. Whereas here, it's more of just upgrading and verifying the upgrade is right, running the test suites, these types of things. And Mel McCann does that with exchanges, and there's dozens of other people whose job is to worry about these things. Anyway, we're getting down to the wire, and I feel pretty confident about this release. It looks like there's going to be the HFC event prior to the conference in Wyoming. So that's always fun. So we can kind of like celebrate there. Also, we'll, at the time of the HFC event, do a HFC party. And I will be present. We'll be there live. So either it works or it doesn't. If it doesn't work, it's not going to be a very good party. But I think it's going to work beautifully. And I have a wonderful whiskey that Ramon, our CTO, gave us. It's over 30 years old. It was a gift last Christmas. And I told him I'd open it at the launch of Alonzo. So I can't wait to open that up. And I'm talking to Lars right now about the minute that the HFC event occurs, getting some things deployed to Alonzo as kind of a celebration. So I'm always up for ideas about that. It's going to be a very exciting time. This is long overdue. And this upgrade is basically everything, batteries included, for the actual act of running compiled Plutus code on Cardano's mainnet. Now, that said, a lot of tooling has to be built afterwards, so the Alonzo testnets will continue. They'll go from light purple to dark purple to red to black, and that's really just an advancement of the tooling ecosystem. All the Plutus pioneers and a lot of the development companies have been using the PAB, the Plutus application backend, and the associated tooling to build their stuff. So they're going to continue testing and growing with that as we get closer to the conference. The current estimate we have for PAB being fully integrated is around September 10th, but that's a tentative date based upon what we discover. And as we keep onboarding people, there's more to do and so forth. So there could be some slippage there, but that doesn't impede the hard fork, the infrastructure upgrade, and the fact that once the hard fork occurs, it's like having the EVM. You actually can run smart contracts on Cardano. Just nobody wants to handwrite EVM code. No one writes the handwrite Java bytecode or CLR code or stuff like that. It's not really that pleasant. So that's why you like high-level languages, and that's why you like the surrounding infrastructure, So it's very important that that infrastructure be ready as well. And that's moving along quite well. And we've seen enormous amount of commentary and documentation and other things from all of the pioneers who have done a really admirable job being members of this. So that's where we're at. So tune in at the middle part of the month. I don't know the date yet for the mid update. As soon as I know it, I'll tweet it for you guys. But I think it's probably like the 15th or something like that. I'll have to look into it. But it's the middle part of the month. We do our mid-month update, and you guys will get your date for Cardano, and then start preparing there. I'd also like to thank all the stake pool operators and the people who have been vigilantly testing Alonzo and been running Alonzo White. And I'd like to thank all the Plutus pioneers who have gotten us here. It's been one hell of a ride. 6 years of thought. We've been in market for 4, and we thought that we'd be able to get to Plutus a little faster, but it was a process, but not one that was unearned. The reality is there's a lot of magic behind the extended UTXO model, and also the ability to verify smart contracts. And there's going to be a beautiful story about the utility that this model provides at the Cardano Summit. So I highly recommend you guys attend that. It's the 3rd week of September. There's a lot of options in person and online, and we'll be rolling a lot more out at the Cardano 360 update at the end of the month, specifically about the conference. And now that we're in the Alonzo era, approaching it, what does that mean for everybody? This is not the end, rather it's the beginning. There's going to be a long tail of things to do. Like Shelly will likely do one more HFC event before the closing of the year as kind of a roll-up, because what's going to happen is there's probably going to be some parameters that need to be changed, some additional things with the Plutus model that developers are say we should change to make things a little easier and better. That's the tuning phase. There also is the rollout of Ouroboros Genesis, and there's the rollout of the full peer-to-peer stack. So we've been testing peer-to-peer for quite some time. We have the governor installed into the system, and that's going to be rolled out tentatively, fully operational by the October timeframe with the data sets that I have. And then also Genesis, hopefully we should be able to gradually roll that out and get it in place before the end of the year, alongside another HFC event. So that's what the rest of the year looks like. Genesis, full peer-to-peer, full smart contracts, the entire development stack with those smart contracts. Obviously, we're already fully decentralized on validators and delegation and these types of things. A lot more to do, but we're working on it. But it's a good time, and I'm really proud of all the stuff that it took to get here. Between when we started and the milestones that we've gone through and the journey that we've gone through to where we're at today, it's a pretty amazing thing to see the progress that's been made. And it's a pretty amazing thing to think about how much innovation has occurred here. I mean, literally everything was built from scratch. Even things we should have probably used something off the shelf, we still did it from scratch. And this is the first, I'd say, totally original cryptocurrency since Bitcoin itself, in that there really is nothing derivative from it. Like, if you look at, for example, Zcash or Litecoin or any of these things, very wisely, the architects of those systems started from something that existed, made the changes that they wanted to make, and then rolled out a product. Even Ethereum borrowed some ideas from many other places and rolled those out. Cardano was unique in that we kind of started from first principles in every single component of the system, whether it be how peer-to-peer networking works and how that stack protects itself from asymmetric attacks, to heals itself, to how do we do DDoS mitigation, to the stake pool model, to the game theory behind the stake pool model, to the accounting model, to the programming model for smart contracts, the resource model for execution units for the smart contracts. Every component is fairly original. And there are some things here and there that we found some collaboration that we could do. But more often than not, it was very original. And we didn't lift anybody's code because nobody was crazy enough to write anything in Haskell at the scale that we have done, except for a few notable exceptions like Cadena. And for a while, the ICP guys were on that train, but they simply gave up and went to Rust because they thought it was a better choice for them. So it's pretty remarkable to see how that's evolved over time. And it's pretty remarkable to see that it's still working, still scaling, still chipping away. There are a lot of optimizations that need to be done, like the HD, the hard disk UTXO optimization to get things from just memory only to a hybrid model where there's memory and disk for UTXO storage. There's a lot of performance optimizations that need to be done. And also Mithril is a very high priority of mine, so we can enable a full node security like client experience. So we've already reached out to 2 separate firms to collaborate together to build a prototype for Mithril. And that's something I think in the coming months we can gradually roll into the system. We still have a full Hydra team. They're going to have a beautiful demo for you guys, an update for you guys at the Cardano Summit in September. But all things together, it's all pulling together quite nicely. One of the things that is totally missed by a lot of the critics of this project is the sheer magnitude of the community we have. It's not just fans. There's real developers, thousands of them, who are waiting, in some cases building at the moment and training for this model. They're not going to go away, especially the ones who have already been funded by Catalyst. 250,000 people have voted in Fund 5. Twice as many votes were cast than the votes cast before. It's pretty remarkable when you think about that magnitude and that size and how fast things have grown with the governance side. So it's very fortuitous that we have this huge evangelistic community that's very excited, wants to build things, to be met by the fact that now they can build a lot of really cool stuff. They've already built some cool stuff, like, for example, Cardano Wall will show the metadata standard and what people are posting to the chain. Also, there's been thousands and thousands of NFTs already issued on Cardano with economic activity in the tens of millions of dollars. In fact, a recent critic of ours over Twitter mocked and said that we can't NFT the tweet because we would need smart contracts. And one of our community members replied by NFTing the tweet and issuing it on the Cardano blockchain, putting it up for sale. I was very tempted to buy it. So that's innovation that's already occurred as a consequence of Mary. And it's very exciting to see that has happened. And I just can't wait for Alonzo and the surrounding infrastructure around Alonzo because it's going to open up all that innovation that's bottled up right now like a genie that we've seen with the Plutus Pioneers program and our dev partners and other such people. And, we've also broadened the base. Over 1 million people in Ethiopia have been brought into the Cardano ecosystem through Prism out of the 5 million, and that continues to grow. We're continuing to onboard already, and many millions more are coming in the next 12, 24 months for RealFi. And the conference will talk a lot about it, but this is a good moment in the project's history, and it's one that rewards the stability this development process has brought. Every single week, I see a hack with a DeFi protocol or a bridge or some design flaw or issue. And it bothers me because the money that's lost is seldom the money of the developers. Occasionally it is, but usually it's the money of the users of the system. And the developers get paid up front. I've always viewed this as a moral hazard and an unsustainable economic model, and one that will either be sued out of existence or regulated out of existence if it continues. There needs to be adults in the room who have the dual desire of not only building something great and getting adoption, but also ensuring that the things that they release aren't ticking time bombs to harm the people who trust them. The whole point of the model that we constructed for smart contracts and why it took so long to bring out was we thought carefully about how do you build great smart contracts. So a big part of the story at the conference will be the formal verification of smart contracts and getting to a point where there's limited ambiguity and a high assurance of correctness of the implementation, and what types of tools we can borrow from the 30 years of progress that the Haskell ecosystem and the functional programming ecosystem brings to bear to make sure that these programs work right the first time, not after they explode and hurt users. So there's some uniqueness there. That said, there's still the ocean and the pond, and it is a priority to have EVM interoperability and also a path that will allow us to be able to use mainstream programming languages. Yet do so in a way that preserves the certification levels that we care about. Among one of our largest investments and strongest relationships is with runtime verification. And RV has been working with us since, I believe, 2017 to do things like formalize the Ethereum virtual machine and to actually run programs like the Alpha Frontier program and to build the virtual machine Yella. All of these things are things that will be brought into Cardano in the coming months and years. And what that will do is widen the base of development that can occur and benefit from all the other infrastructure that Cardano has, like the native multi-asset standard, the metadata standard, the fact that Prism is tightly there in our software. And by the way, the Prism Pioneers program will be starting soon, and we'll announce that at the conference. If you want to use the SDK and build an identity-oriented application for DeFi that requires that, there's going to be a path for these things. All those tools are available alongside the governance tools that we're building with Catalyst. So to me, this is really the model done right. It takes a long time to get there because you have to learn what not to do, and you have to make sure that you're building on bedrock. The great irony is that while Ethereum was first to market, Ethereum is still borrowing some ideas from Bitcoin. When you look at the sharding model, what they're attempting to do, and this was beautifully written in a recent blog post called Why Cardano from DC Spark by Nico, the CEO of the firm, one of the Cardano companies floating around, was this concept that while the accounting model is simpler to understand and perhaps program for, it's being silently abandoned as the move to Ethereum 2 happens, because the reality is that you can't have global state and have sharding and do that in a sensible way. You have to have some local representations, maybe through sidechains or other such things. So in a way, Ethereum is moving closer to the model that Bitcoin pioneered, and we were able to refine to the extended UTXO model. And we've seen great results with Ergo, which was a little ahead of us, thanks to their agility, with things like ErgoScript and the on-chain oracles, the launch of AgeUSD, and so forth. And I think most of the space will realize the wisdom of moving from global to local state and realize the insanity of attempting to get high performance in a system where everybody has to be aware of everybody else's business. See the roll-ups, you see plasma channels, they've already conceded that fight. We were built native for this paradigm in the best possible way. And I think we're far ahead in that paradigm. And over time, I believe this paradigm will become the dominant paradigm. It's also important to understand that most dApps are going to be rewritten in the next 24 to 36 months, and most dApps will become multi-chain. dApps are not loyal to a blockchain, any more so than an application developer was loyal to Microsoft Windows as they migrated to Android and iOS, and they will migrate somewhere else. They're loyal to users and cost and economic models and ease of development. And in the end, users will go, dApps will go where they believe they have the best chance to succeed within the operating cost of the model. So this is an open fight. There's no settled science. There's no settled network effect, and we're all just living it. It's one of the biggest lies that's been told in the space, and anybody who believes it will be left behind. And I believe very firmly that as the next wave of applications upgrade from DeFi to RealFi, that's DeFi with identity and metadata and certification and governance and regulation and all the kinds of things that are actually required for a real ecosystem, they will become blockchain agnostic, and they will also need to get strong assurances that the protocol is correct, because their liability will increase, and they need on-chain governance to help them sort out the management of things they claim are decentralized without relying upon centralized organizations like foundations, as several people in the Ethereum space have learned throughout the years. And in that space, we pre-built for these things, and we have a lead over all the incumbents in that respect. So the game is open, and I'm glad that we get to play that game. To win it, you got to change it. Well, it changed, and our days ahead are going to be really, really good. We've had a lot of critics. We've had a lot of criticism, some fair, some unfair, in terms of delays and things like that. It's extraordinary to me that the very people who say that we're always delaying The same people who accept that it's taken 7 years for Ethereum to even get to a proof of stake plan. We were first to market with it, not them, and ours is better. But that's okay. That's commercial criticism, and it occurs here and there. But there's a very particular type of criticism which is just puzzling to me. It's a criticism of denial of existence. What's so strange is that after the Alonzo HFC event occurs, and we've popped our champagne and we've had a great moment as a community, there will still be a rather substantial group of people in the cryptocurrency space that are so committed to the great lie that we have no intention or ability to deploy smart contracts that they'll claim we didn't do it. And actually, I'm very curiously watching the poly market, prediction market, where they have people, it's about evenly split between yes and no. Well, we have smart contracts by October 1st. Our current deadlines are showing August to September, nowhere in October. If we do the HFC, will the yeses actually win? I actually don't know. Even though it happened and contracts will be running and we've entered the smart contract era of Cardano, we can show the unique ways we can do things and satisfy all the requirements, I'm somewhat skeptical that they'll actually give the money to the people who bet yes on this because of the great lie that keeps being repeated again and again and again. So hopefully at the summit, we can put that specter to bed and show all that's been done, all that you've done as a community and grow. But there are going to be people for months, if not years, who still claim we're just a wallet, just a testnet, just a white paper, and so forth, including people in the venture capital class, including people who are professional developers. Don't let that dissuade you, because at the end of the day, we're not here for a popularity contest. At the end of the day, we're not here to win the hearts and minds of a different religion, whether that be the cult of Satoshi or Ethereum or wherever have you. We're here to change the world, the systems of the world, to improve them and make them better for everyone everywhere. The systems that govern the financial infrastructure, the systems that govern the choice architecture of how you get to vote and make decisions of who's in charge, the way our property is represented and traded and stored. And as long as we continue to grow, at some point we'll wake up and instead of having millions, because it wasn't too long ago that we just had thousands, we'll have billions of people. And all of these rivalries and complaints and delusions and grand lies that keep being levied, they will seem so trivial and small. It wasn't too long ago that Paul Krugman, when asked about the relevance of the internet, very famously said it will be no more impactful than the invention of the fax machine. And he won a Nobel Prize in economics. And I imagine the critics of our ecosystem will suffer the same fate upon reflection. And that's for them to deal with, and the people they attempt to attract credibility and investments to question them about in the future. But today, as we move towards the dawn of Alonzo, we just don't care about them anymore. The game has changed. We changed it, and we're here to play the new one. And this is the game for the hearts and minds of the billions of people who are looking for a new system. Thank you for playing it with me. Thank you for being part of this movement. And I really do look forward to seeing you over the next 2 months, August and September. And it's going to be a very, very good conference, a great celebration, and a great commitment to the future as we look towards the next 5 years, Cardano 2025. Cheers.